at ligtas na araw mga kababayan. Pag-uusapan natin ang iba't ibang isyong hinaharap ng ating lipunan sa cyberspace. Welcome to CyberChat and be a cyber guardian. The past 3 episodes of CyberChat revolved around online sexual exploitation of children. Today and the succeeding 2 episodes, we shall focus on another issue, cyberbullying. But before we start with another jam-packed discussion on a different cybercrime, let us again acknowledge that CyberChat was made possible through the efforts of the Cyber Guardians PH, a coalition of government agencies, private organizations, and NGOs. During our second episode, dubbed as Children Are Not Commodities, our televiewers got to meet ECPAT Philippines, one of the Cyber Guardians PH core members. And we will get to know more about the Cyber Guardians in our succeeding episodes. 80% of teens in the Philippines experience cyberbullying, and this has led to a more serious problem, depression. And if not addressed, this could lead to suicidal thoughts and behavior. Based on UNICEF's report, 1 in 3 young people have been victims of online bullying in 30 countries they surveyed. Cyber violence is prevalent in both males and females. 1/3 of cyber violence experienced by Filipino children are in the form of verbal abuse over the internet or through cell phones, while 1/4 are through sexual messages. At tulad ng OSAEC or online sexual abuse and exploitation of children, dapat bigyan ng masusing pagtingin ang cyberbullying. What is driving this behavior online? Is it social media, peer pressure, uninvolved parents? Kailan pa ba naging popular ang pambubuli sa Pilipinas? When we Filipinos are known as naturally hospitable and basically happy people. Nakakalungkot at nakakabahala ito dahil sa rising incidence of suicide sa mga kabataan. These are the questions that we will be probing in today's episode and in the succeeding 2 episodes with our special guests. Through CyberChat, we also aim to showcase possible solutions or programs to combat these serious online threats. Samahan niyo po kami mga ka-Cyber Guardians. So, let us welcome our guests and resource persons na tutulungan tayong maintindihan. Ano ba itong cyberbullying na ito? Our first guest is a full-time communication faculty and former academic coordinator of the Communication and Multimedia Arts Department of Lyceum of the Philippines. He is currently the Assistant Secretary of the Philippine Association of Communication Educators, or PACE. In 2014, he presented a paper at the DLSU Research Congress on social media as a channel and its implications on cyberbullying. Let us welcome Professor Reginald Gonzalez. Welcome to CyberChat, sir. Our next guest is with the Cybersecurity Bureau of the Department of Information and Communications Technology, or DICT. She helped craft the Philippines National Cybersecurity Plan of 2022. Let us welcome Ms. Jenalyn Macalinaw, DICT Cybersecurity Bureau's Policy Lead. Good day, Ma'am Jen Macalinaw. Thank you for being here at CyberChat.
Thank you.
We are pleased to have with us today a representative from the Cybercrime Division of the National Bureau of Investigation. He's a certified public accountant, or CPA, and a certified ethical hacker who has been working with the Bureau for the past 4 years, handling cybercrime cases. Welcome to CyberChat, Agent Edge Nuevo. Sa ating pong pagbabalik ay masusi nating pag-uusapan ang cyberbullying.
When we're mean, we might say or do things that hurt others. We might be feeling angry, upset, or jealous. It could happen once, or maybe even twice. Being mean is not okay, but bullying is much worse. Bullying is when someone uses their power repeatedly to hurt or upset someone. It could be hurting them physically or calling them names and saying hurtful things. So then, what's cyberbullying? Cyberbullying's like bullying, but it happens on the internet or on a device like your phone, which can make it kind of different. With cyberbullying, it can feel harder to escape because it can happen anywhere, anytime. Also, it's easier for cyberbullies to hide who they are. Plus, other people online could see what's happening and even gang up on someone. If you see someone being bullied, in person or online, what can you do? Give them support. It helps to show that you care. Be an upstander. Stand up for others and say something to the bully. Report what you see and tell a trusted adult. So, what will you do if you see cyberbullying?
Welcome back to CyberChat. Professor Gonzalez, for the better understanding of our televiewers, maaari niyo po bang ipaliwanag sa amin kung ano ang cyberbullying at kung ano-ano ang mga different forms o uri nito? And how and where do these incidents usually happen?
Okay, so yung tinatawag nating cyberbullying, wala itong pinagkaiba dun sa traditional na bullying na alam natin, na naranasan nating lahat, na nangyayari kadalasan sa loob ng eskwelahan. The only difference with cyberbullying is the domain, espasyo kung saan ito nangyayari. Because with cyberbullying, ito ay nangyayari sa cyberspace.
Right.
Okay? And kaya siya nangyayari sa cyberspace is because may no access yung ating mga users, yung mga participants natin, with different technological the gadgets, the mobile phones, laptops, and the likes.
Right.
So, there are many forms of cyberbullying, but to name a few, we have harassment, where the perpetrators usually send abusive, threatening messages to the victims. There's also what we call as outing, where the perpetrators would typically upload online informations that are deemed as sensitive, personal, okay, for the purpose of humiliating the victims. And there are also what we call as cyberstalking, where the perpetrators usually follow the online or cyber activities of its target, which usually leads to feeling of discomfort and feeling of being threatened on the part of the victims. And so there are so many other forms of cyberbullying aside from those that I have mentioned.
But cyberbullying is bullying that takes place sa mga cell phones, mga digital devices, computers, tablets.
Yes, absolutely. Siguro ito yung characteristic ng ating society nowadays, that we are more, what do you call this, mediated. Means to say that most of our communication activities are done using these gadgets.
It can occur through SMS, text, And apps are online in social media, forums, even gaming, online gaming, where people can view, participate in, or share content. Hence, the significant role of social media in cyberbullying. Tama nga po kayo.
Yes.
Let's take a look at these statistics released by Hootsuite. We are social, which indicates that for January 2019, out of the 107.3 million population of the Philippines, 76 million or 71% are internet users. And these 76 million people are active social media users, spending a daily average of 4 hours and 12 minutes in social media using any device. Actually, Professor Gonzalez can help us better understand the social media phenomenon and its implications to cyberbullying. What is this paper, Professor Gonzalez, on social media as a channel and its implications in cyberbullying that you presented at the DLSU Research Congress in 2014? Is that
yes,
right?
It's actually a paper that I have written during my my study in the graduate school of the Polytechnic University of the Philippines. I am a communication graduate student back then, and I submitted the paper to this Congress. So I would like to, so I can share with other fellow researchers the result of my study.
So based on your study, Professor Gonzalez, what is the significant role of social media in cyberbullying?
Okay. Well, balik tayo dun sa pinakagamit ng social media because social media is a communication tool. It's a communication platform. So the study, we're able to discover that aside from being a communication tool, social media is being used as a weapon so that other people could cause harm to other people. And that's what basically bullying is all about. It's all about power dominance. So may mga taong malalakas, may mga taong mahihina, and social media is in the middle of these two people. So nagagamit siyang paraan para mag-connect yung mga tao na gustong mambully dun sa mga tao na gusto nilang i-bully. However, the downside of it is that it's being weaponized. And that's the bad side of using social media as a method or as a platform of cyberbullying.
Ang pinaka most common social media platform where cyberbullying happens are Instagram and Facebook ba?
Yes, I would agree. Kasi ito, based on statistics, ito yung dalawang pinaka commonly used form or type of social media here in the Philippines.
Professor, you mentioned in your paper the prevailing problems of cyberbullying in the Philippines, and this was way back in 2014. What are those problems then, Professor, and how are things now after 5 years?
Okay, one of the major problems back then is the absence of a clear and specific law about cyberbullying. At the time, meron pa lang mga bills na sinubmit sa Congress, but in terms of legislation, wala pa doon sa mga bills na yon ang na-enact into a specific law about cyberbullying. So that's one. The second is, there is no clear, I would say, baseline data na magsasabi kung gaano kalala or prevalent yung kaso ng cyberbullying sa Pilipinas. In fact,
conduct ng prevalence study.
Exactly. In fact, one of my experts even mentioned that most of the cyberbullying cases are, anecdotal. Kinukwento lang, but most of the victims, they don't actually report these cases of cyberbullying to authorities.
How about you, Ms. Jen Macarino? Based on your personal knowledge as the DICT Cybersecurity Bureau Policy Lead, ano ang pinaka-most common type of form of cyberbullying na nakikita nyo? Do you have some data on cyberbullying cases reported to your office, DICT, from 2017, ma'am?
Yeah, the reported cases to us actually are mostly harassment when we talk about cyberbullying. And the most common case would be, there would be a teenager posting something about his opinion in social media, and then peers of him or her who do not agree would create a fake account for the purpose only of negating what the teenager said, because they do not agree. And from there, it will flourish into more conversations that would lead to hateful speech, and then that would basically comprise most of the cyberbullying cases that the Bureau receives. And to add to the professor's statement earlier, it's true that most teenagers would rarely want to talk about being a victim of cyberbullying. In fact, when we do receive cases like this, the first thing that we do is to encourage the teen to tell his parents. They would report without the parents knowing, and they would refuse to tell their parents. But that's the first thing we encourage. We encourage them to involve their parents should they want to pursue a case. As far as statistics is concerned, for 2019, as of October of this year, we've had 30 cases of reported cyberbullying.
30 cases.
And mostly teens.
That's quite a lot na rin. Balikan ko lang si Professor Gonzalez. Professor, can you highlight the significant findings of your study? Briefly summarize mo yung mga pinaka-importante.
Okay, siguro i-highlight ko lang yung tatlong importanteng punto. Una, social media empowers the users. Empowers in the sense that they could actually hide their identity. So yung mga bagay na hindi nila kayang gawin sa totoong mundo, they can actually do it with social media. And yung catch doon, pwede silang hindi mahuli. Okay? Another important point is that iba yung dynamics ng mga participants sa cyberbullying. Because in the real world, yung bully is yung malakas na tao at yung binubully yung mahinang tao. But in cyberbullying, it can be, anybody's game. So just because mahina ka doesn't mean hindi ka pwedeng mambully. So it gives you the voice and the power to actually, even if you think of yourself as someone who's weak, you can still be a perpetrator of cyberbullying. Pwede mong ibully yung ibang tao na hindi mo kayang gawin or naturally gagawin sa totoong mundo.
Because here, you're emboldened by the anonymity.
Exactly. So there's this anonymity thing na pwede mong maging safeguard. Okay? And third important point siguro would be, in social media, information can travel so fast. So if you really want, if you have an intention to cause harm to your victim, sa isang click mo lang ng post, upload, okay, you can actually damage already the reputation, the name of the person you are targeting.
Which can be irreparable.
Exactly. And that's something that many of the perpetrators don't realize. Okay? So yun, those are some important points that I would like to share.
So given those significant findings, how are these addressed by the Department of Information and Communications Technology as an ICT policy government agency? Ms. Jen, can you please share with us about the programs initiated and implemented by your office to address cyberbullying?
Sure. The Cybersecurity Bureau of the Department of Information and Communications Technology actually has child online protection programs. So there are 3 projects under this program. One is anti-online sexual exploitation of children. Another is digital parenting, targeting the parents. And of course, anti-cyberbullying campaigns. So since the Cybersecurity Bureau deals with more of the proactive, preventive measures, it being the core mandate is cybersecurity, it's more on education, campaigns, awareness programs, empowering the youth and the parents as well in terms of responsible use of social media or the digital world in general.
When we come back, let us talk about the pertinent laws against cyberbullying and what are the legal remedies of the cyberbullied victims. Earlier, narinig natin ang current cyberbullying situation in our country, the significant findings of Professor Gonzalez's study, and the programs that the DICT Cybersecurity Bureau had initiated and implemented to address cyberbullying. Tanungin naman natin ngayon si Agent Ano Nuevo. Agent Edge Ano Nuevo. How does the NBI Cybercrime Division handle reported cases of cyberbullying, Sir Edge? How many were reported last year and resolved? And did the numbers improve this year?
Well, it really depends on the nature of the case reported to us. And it's good that Professor Gonzalez has mentioned the lack of an exact definition of cyberbullying in our present legal statutes. So what we do is we try to find a legal angle wherein we can categorize the reported incident to us within the existing legal penal statutes of our country. And because of this lack of legal definition, there is a difficulty in quantifying the actual statistics of cyberbullying cases. Because what we do is, for example, the reported incident contains elements of online libel, then we classify it as a case of online libel. If there is a threat aspect to the case, then we classify it as rape threats. And if there is a sexual harassment aspect to the case, then we classify it under the sexual
exploitation.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Agent Edge, ano pa po ba yung mga iba't iba pang offenses na covered ng Cybercrime Prevention Act na pwedeng magamit na charges para sa cyberbullying incidents?
Okay, so basically, lahat ng traditional crimes that are defined and penalized under the revised penal code, pwede rin natin gamitin siya to address cyberbullying incidents because under the Republic Act 1175, that is our Cybercrime Prevention Act, under Section 6 of that statute, lahat ng traditional crimes na penalized under revised penal code, pwede natin siyang makommit through online means,
With
through
the use of ICT.
Yes, ma'am, through the use of ICT. And the penalty for that is 1 degree higher than the traditional crimes.
Halimbawa naman, unjust vexation daw na commit under the revised penal code, yung unjust vexation, yun yung nagkakos ng substantial or severe emotional distress for no legitimate purpose sa isang tao. Yung vinex mo siya, inasar mo siya ng todo, tapos nag-cause ng sleepless nights, mental anguish, serious anxiety sa tao. Yung penalty under the revised penal code for committing the crime of unjust vexation, magiging 1 degree higher siya.
Actually, attorney, it's good to hear that our law recognizes the effect of ICT committed crimes have actually more repercussions than those of the traditional crimes. That's why 1 degree, always at least 1 degree higher ang penalty if you commit it through ICT. Kaya lang, attorney, how about in cases where it's not really pornography, it's not sexual exploitation, but rather a teenager na typically a mom, a fellow mother na yung anak is na-distress because may nag-post ng something detrimental sa kanya, na-hurt siya, hindi siya nakatulog. It will not fall kasi under the other offenses sa Cybercrime Prevention Act. Is there a legal course for this?
Yes, ma'am. Pwedeng makasuhan ng unjust vexation yung perpetrator. Ang unjust vexation kasi yan yung merong substantial o severe emotional distress na na-cause sa isang tao na wala namang legitimate purpose and yet ginagawa sa kanya yon. So, hindi siya makatulog, may sleepless night siya, may mental anguish siya tuloy na nararanasan. Hindi po ba, Prof. Gonzales, may mga cases din kayo na na-encounter na ganito?
Yes, actually, sa school setting, marami tayong cases ng cyberbullying. Kaya lang, siguro, isang question na pwede nating itanong dyan is, pinag-uusapan kasi natin yung legal aspects ng cyberbullying. But we forgot to mention that mostly ang involved sa cyberbullying ay mga minors. So, I wonder how these laws we have would, help in addressing cyberbullying, considering that most of the involved people here are minors.
Professor, kasi kahit mga minors, maaari pa rin silang kasuhan, nagiging tinatawag natin CICL or Children in Conflict with the Law. Pero syempre, we want to avoid this. We also want to protect the minor kahit siya yung nag-start ng unjust fixation, hindi po ba? Kasi pwedeng misguided siya or may pinagdadaanan din. Kaya nga sa ating law against bullying, which covers now cyberbullying, magandang gawin muna ay dumaan muna sa school. Ma-involve muna ang parents, ang guidance counselor, ang students. May mediation muna. Huwag yung didiretso mo kagad sa korte dahil gaya ng sabi niyo mga minors ang involved dito. Kadalasan.
Nag-viral noong March 2018 ang video ng pagmumura at pananampal ng isang estudyante sa kapwa niya mag-aral sa Quezon. Bagaman napag-ayos ang dalawang panig, matindi ang posibleng epekto nito sa batang binuli. Kumalat din ang larawan ng isang dalagitang walang saplot pang itaas sa ilang mag-aaral sa Maynila.
Very recently, we have read in the news similar incidents we saw in that video. A student in one exclusive school bullying a classmate inside the boys' toilet and uploading that incident. Also, another incident of students sharing and uploading nude photos of their own classmates. Ito po ba ang ganitong klaseng cyberbullying incidents ang most commonly reported to your office, Agent Edge?
Yes, ma'am, actually, yan yung mga leading incidents of cyberbullying that are reported to our office. In line with, along with online libel cases, sextortion cases, and then yung andyan din yung mga threats, grave threats cases natin, kasama din dyan. And yung yung uploading of the bullying incident, hindi siya masyadong kasama, pero ito yung nag-garner ng most attention dun sa mga netizens natin kasi nga dun sa nature ng content. And then yung uploading ng mga nude photos ng mga students, very prevalent din yan. Hindi pa natin sinasama dyan yung mga group chats, yung mga group page, wherein dyan talaga nangyayari yung pasahan ng mga nude pictures. And if you're a victim of uploading of nude photos, usually kasama it follows, magiging victim ka na rin ng cyberbullying kasi ibabash ka ng mga classmates mo, ng mga kilala mo, ng mga even friends mo, ganyan.
Pero, Agent Edge, paano naman po kung yung cyberbully used a troll account to cyberbully the victim? What happens? This is actually a common problem among celebrities or public officials or mga public figures, sir, diba? When they are bashed below the belt and the basher used troll accounts, wouldn't that fall also under cyberbullying?
Yes, ma'am. That can be categorized also as a cyberbullying case. And usually what we do is we evaluate the reported content. Because depending on the nature of the case, if there is a grave and imminent danger on the person of the aggrieved party, then we can use it as a justification for us to file our request with our foreign counterparts.
Meaning, ito po yung preservation?
Yes, ma'am. Initially, mag-ano kami ng preservation letter with the social media website concerned.
For example, Facebook or Instagram.
Facebook or Instagram or whichever. And then after that, if we find that meron talagang danger dun sa life ng injured party, then we can use it as basis for the request po namin dun sa social media account concerned.
Pero sir, what if walang imminent or grave danger sa part ng victim?
Yes, ma'am.
Pero very serious yung accusation na sira talaga ang reputasyon niya, nasaktan ng pamilya. Yun naman, you also prioritize those cases naman. No?
Yes, ma'am. What we do is we take into consideration the circumstantial evidence surrounding the case, and then if it is not enough to establish the identity of the perpetrator, then meron po tayong tinatawag na warrant to disclose computer data. That's the legal process wherein we can compel a information service provider, an ISP, to disclose a subscriber information, for instance, tapos yung mga related information na pwede nating makakatulong para ma-identify natin yung perpetrator.
Maganda sana to yung warrant to disclose computer data. Ang problem lang is kung may jurisdiction yung court natin. Kasi halimbawa, Facebook, sa US kasi, di ba? Doon dapat i-file ang case. So, it's a bit tricky for our law enforcers pagka ganyan. Yung mga ISPs lang na nasa Pilipinas, yun lang yung may jurisdiction yung Philippine courts eh. Napakahalaga nito para sa ating mga manonood. Ano ba ang basic responsibilities ng DICT at NBI in relation to cyberbullying? Kung ako ay isang magulang at nabibiktima ang aking anak sa cyberbullying, kanino ako tatakbo para i-report ang ganitong kaso?
Well, for DICT, in terms of cybersecurity, as mentioned earlier, we're more on the preventive aspect, education aspect. When it comes to investigation and prosecution, it's with our law enforcement, with DOJ. Now, what the ICT does, as earlier mentioned, we do extensive educational campaigns. So throughout schools, we've been doing cybersecurity campaign programs, and we try to cover all the regions as much as we can. So we do this in schools, universities, colleges, educating basically the youth on responsible digital citizenship, and of course also explaining the laws that could make them understand how they should behave online. And aside from that, we also have programs targeting the parents, guardians, guidance counselors, and it's called digital parenting. Now, when we do receive a case of, let's say for example, a youth reports that he was cyberbullied, what we do, if we can do immediate measures, for example, there are cases where the Facebook account is taken over by someone, so the teenager can no longer access his account. We do try to help, recover the account. Some immediate measures that we can always do, like reaching out to the social media platform, and then should they want to pursue a case, we also help them prepare evidence, like how do you capture the screenshot. Of course, it needs to have to include the URL, things like that.
Before you refer them to the law.
And then we refer them to the Philippine National Police Anti-Cybercrime Group or to the NBI Cybercrime Division. So we just help them prepare all the things that they need should they want to pursue a case.
Wow. I understand that House Bill 5718, entitled An Act Defining and Penalizing the Crime of Cyberbullying, known as the Anti-Cyberbullying Act of 2015, originally authored by former Congressman Rolando Andaya, has been pending with the House ICT Committee for quite some time now. Does anyone of our guests know the status of the bill now?
Actually, the DICT is invited when there is an ICT committee hearing. But so far, we have not yet received an invitation on this particular bill. The last one we did was on the amendment of the Cybercrime Prevention Act, as well as the Data Privacy Act.
House Bill 5718 criminalizes cyberbullying and sets a penalty of 50,000 pesos but not more than 100,000 pesos. Meron din niyang imprisonment, not less than 6 months but not more than 6 years for anyone found guilty of cyberbullying, di po ba? Ms. Jen, do you see this as a deterrent for individuals or netizens from committing cyberbullying? Itong mga penalties na to? At yung fines na impose, deterrent ba yan?
For the Anti-Bullying Act, actually, since it's specific to primary and secondary
Schools.
secondary schools, those that are in colleges, universities, and even adults have no recourse if you just refer to that bill. So it's not, if you ask me, we need a specific law on cyberbullying itself, so that all of our citizens who are victimized can have a legal recourse.
So alam nyo na may mga intervention programs at preventive programs dapat ang mga schools, at mandated dito ng government ha. Itong mga preventive programs na to, ang meron dyan, hindi dapat punitive measures. Dapat preventive and corrective measures. And tama kayo, Ms. Jen, sa sinabi nyo kanina na hindi ito applicable sa mga nasa colleges na, actually applicable to sa mga nasa kindergarten, elementary, secondary schools, at sa mga learning centers lamang.
Okay, dun sa kaso ng ating mga HEIs or higher educational institutions, we do not have this kind of provisions that would compel the schools to actually come up with this kind of programs or policies. Now, in some cases, so dahil limited tayo ng ganitong klaseng mga provisions, the schools itself initiates their own policies and guidelines, and most of these policies and guidelines are actually incorporated to the school's student handbook. Well, definitely hindi ito sapat dahil unang-una, hindi natin ma-assure na lahat ng colleges and universities sa buong Pilipinas would have their own policy and guidelines on cyberbullying. So, on my part, doon pa rin ako na ang aking stand dito is kailangan talagang magkaroon tayo ng isang malinaw, specific na batas of cyberbullying that will cover lahat ng involved na institutions and schools, regardless kung ito ay basic education or ito ay higher education institutions.
And we'll go to Agent Edge. Ano naman tingin nyo tungkol dito sa sufficiency ng mga policies? Ang mga prevailing lang na guidelines na meron yung mga colleges, enough ba yan?
On the side of law enforcement, ma'am, we actually treat those provisions and policies as disciplinary measures. So if we're speaking of deterrence to the commission of cyberbullying incidents, then these policies and provisions will definitely not suffice. Kaya tama po si Professor Gonzales, once and for all, sana po meron po tayong existing na law na mag-a-address po dun sa cyberbullying incidents po natin.
Sayang at wala tayong kasamang representatives from the Department of Education ngayon for us to better understand and appreciate the implementation of the implementing rules and regulations of the anti-bullying law in schools. Next time, we should also invite teachers, school administrators, and students for their inputs to better improve the implementation of the implementing rules and regulations of the Anti-Bullying Act. Let us pause for a break.
Sa video ni Amanda Todd sa YouTube, inilarawan niya ang matinding depresyon. Naging tampulan siya ng panlalait matapos kumalat sa internet ang larawan ng kanyang dibdib. Hindi ito nakayanan ni Amanda at nagbigti siya.
1 in 3 young people have been victims of cyberbullying. Ito ba ang lipunang kalalakihan ng ating mga anak? A society where being cruel is acceptable? As your closing message, what can we do to curb cyberbullying? Is social media exposure of our youth the cause of this? What can be done kaya to address cyberbullying identified as the leading cause of depression and suicide among the youth? We can start with you, Professor Gonzales.
Well, for my part, I guess the best way for us to address the problem of cyberbullying is really to educate our social media users, because all these problems coming from social media is about education. That's why importante na ma-promote natin sa ating mga kabataan, especially nowadays, yung konsepto ng media and information literacy. This concept is will teach the students, the kids, not only to use how to use our social media platforms, but also it's also important for them to understand the implications of using this communication tools or platforms, both the legal and ethical implications, so that they will be able to understand the how to effectively and responsibly use social media so as to avoid committing acts of cyberbullying.
Very good message, sir. Dapat alam ng mga kabataan natin ngayon how to responsibly use social media. Let's go to you, Ms. Jen. Ano po ang closing message natin for our televiewers?
Well, in my search for answers to your question, with my background in technology, I tried to look for it, for the answers of technology, but it's not there. And as a policymaker, I tried to look for its laws that we have. Is there really just an insufficiency of law? While we do need an anti-cyberbullying law, is that really the cause of this rise? And so, given the statistics earlier, where the average Filipino spends, as you mentioned, 4 hours and 12 minutes in social media, and most of the users are the youth, in those 4 hours, you can't help but ask, where's the parent in all those 4 hours? And in our reported cases in the ICT, usually, as I mentioned earlier, the parent has no idea of what's happening to the cyberbullied kid. And so with that, I came to realize that at the end of the day, it's really how we as parents try to help our kids navigate this online world that is full of dangers. Because from the time a kid wakes up till the time he sleeps, the greatest influence to him is the parents. And so I believe that we need to empower parents on how they can help their children become responsible digital citizens, both for the victims. This will help both the victims and those that are the bullies. Because when you look deeper into the reason why they are victims or why they are bullies, it will always point back to the family. And so, my stand on this is, as a parent, we need to be involved. And we need to work on our relationship with our kids. Because the greater the relationship, the greater the influence.
Agent Edge, your closing message, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Kami po kasi sa NBI Cybercrime, in cases of cyberbullying incidents, we always say that the virtual world is as real as the physical world to our children. And considering that, we should use that as leverage to communicate and forge our bonds with our children. And as investigators of cybercrime cases, part of our duty is to promote and advocate cybersecurity. That's why we are very grateful for this opportunity to further spread awareness through these media platforms.
Thank you very much, Agent Edge. We are so grateful that we have people like you working in the NBI. Thank you for your hard work, for your heart to serve the children being victimized in the cyber world. Napakabilis ng oras, marami pang dapat talakayin. We open CyberChat with these questions. Ito ba ay dala ng social media? O ito ba ay isang tanda ng patuloy na pagkasira ng ating kultura bilang mga Pilipino? O ang kawalan ng involvement ng parents sa digital life ng kanilang mga anak? How do we take action ourselves and be part of the solution to this problem? Hindi masasagot ang mga katanungan na ito ngayon, kailangan ng mas malalim na pagsusuri. Kasama kayong mga manonood. Join us in the succeeding episodes of CyberChat. Sama-sama po nating sagutin ang mga katanungang ito. Sa pamamagitan ninyong lahat ay mabibigyan ng solusyon ang problemang ito. Alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. Kaya huwag po kayong bibitiw sa pagtutok sa CyberChat dito sa TV Maria. Patuloy nating labanan ang online sexual abuse and exploitation of children at cyberbullying. Be a cyber guardian.